So I think at this present stage, it's a good time to at least start building some parameters into here so it doesn't become overwhelming at the end. So I'm just going to go up to here and I'm going to, let's see if we can find some room to see it. Nope, you can't see it. It's all the way down at the bottom, but we're going to grab type properties, which is all the way down at the bottom. And we'll bring this up here and go to our parameter window. And I guess I need to enlarge this a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is put down a chooser here for our scatter type. So let's see, we go all the way here. So I'm going to go into our choose onto scatter surface or into the volume. So I'm just going to grab the select input and I'm just going to drag that right in here. And we'll call this surface volume switch. And we can call this scatter type. You know what? Let's just change this as well. Make sure that they're consistent scatter type. We should turn off range here. And if I go into my menu, what I want to do is choose use menu and give us a regular normal menu here. And here what I'm going to do is use tokens. So I'm going to say token, that's 0, and then I want to give this a label, which I'm going to call surface. I'm going to press enter. Now I'm going to type 1, and I'm going to call this next one volume. And for my channels, for the default, I'm going to keep that at 0. I'm going to just click accept, just so you can see what we've done there. So you notice here that those have taken the names that I chose. And what happens is because I gave this a value of 0, it's going to default to 0, or it's going to mean 0 when I choose that. And here when I choose volume, that's going to mean 1. So surface volume. Now going back to my type properties, which is off screen. Let's go back inside. And now we want to choose volume method, which would be here. So I'm going to bring that right there. And we will call this volume method. And again, we'll turn off range, go into our menu, turn use menu on. And for 0, we are going to call that volume scatter. And then 1, we will call this volume grid. I'm just going to click apply, which is off screen, but you should be able to do that. And you'll see here that now when I go into volume method, we can choose scatter or grid. And let's make sure for my channels here, default that to 0 as well. So one thing we can do to clean up this interface is it'd be nice if this wasn't even visible or was grayed out or locked when we're on surface mode, because right now I'm choosing this and it doesn't make any sense. As a user, I'm kind of confused about whether this is doing anything at all or not. So up here in our parameters, you have hide and disable when. And so what we can do is actually make this conditional. So we can say, looking at this parameter type, which is called scatter type, there's a little format here, which is the bracket, and then I say scatter type. And let's say equals, that's 2 equals sign 1. That's going to be disabled. I'm just copying and pasting the same thing into hide. I'm going to click accept or apply. Let's make sure that that's right. Oh, sorry, I actually want that to say 0, not 1. There we go. There we go. And I'm going to click accept. And now you can see that when I go onto volume mode, now all of our volume scatter becomes visible. And here, now we hide that parameter. So it makes it a little cleaner here to not have to even know about these methods unless we're choosing to work with them. So let's save our asset here, save the node type, and save the file, and we'll keep going. Okay, so we're going to need to grab some of our scatter parameters and link them in here. So I'm going to just open type properties again here, and I'm going to dive inside. We can do this fairly quickly in terms of getting our stuff over here, but then there's going to be some things that we're going to need to kind of reset up and relink. So I'm just going to actually, instead of dragging and moving them over here, another way we can do this is to hold down the Option key and middle mouse on the parameters that we want to promote. I'm not going to grab everything, but we will start to grab a bunch of this stuff. So I'm going to put generate here. You can see that pops up right over there. And again, Alt and middle mouse button, density scale. I'll grab density attribute, total count. That, not right now, maybe later you'll want that. Max points, global seed, relax iterations, scale by. There we go. And then max relax radius. And for output attributes, we'll grab these two as well. And then let's see, we want the toggles. I also didn't grab the toggles, so let me grab relax iteration toggle and make sure that that goes before relax iterations. For max points as well, I should grab that toggle, put that before max points. Force total count, I think we need that one too. Density attribute. Then let's take a quick look here. And I'm just going to click apply. So now you can see we have all this stuff, but it's not laid out correctly and this stuff isn't grayed out right. So we can start grabbing, like, use density attribute here, just say horizontally join to the next parameter. Same with our force total count. Join that to the next parameter, use max points. And then same with relax points. I'm going to click apply. And now you can see that that has changed as well. And let's take a quick look inside here and see what they did here. So it looks like they just left that empty in terms of its label here. So why don't we just delete out all of that. Actually, just turn off the label. Duh. Let's make it even better. I'm going to click apply. There we go. So no label needed. Okay, and let's check some of the other stuff here. So you notice this is all linked now. So let's start disabling a bunch of stuff. So we have relax points called relax points. I'm just going to copy that. And for relax iterations, we're going to just disable when that equals 0. And again, it looks like Scale radii should be disabled then as well. And max relax. Let's click apply. Make sure that looks like it's working correctly. Great. Turn max points off and just see if that does the same thing here as well. So yes, it looks like all of those things get disabled when that's on or off. So we'll go to max points here as well. That's called use emergency limit. So we will disable that when that equals 0. Grab force total and copying. I'm going to force total count. I'm going to disable when force total is equal to 0 as well. I'm going to click apply. Okay, that's working, that's working. Density attribute as well needs to be disabled. So just copy that here. Go to density attribute, we'll disable that when that is equal to 0. Clicking apply. And then I believe density scale is disabled when we are using force total count. So let's check on that here. So I'm turning force total count off. Now we should see density scales on, so let's check that as well. So force total count, we'll keep it 1,000. And then density scale, disable when that equals on. And we're going to get some stuff probably that's going to break if we choose either of these two for now. But I'm just going to keep this active at the moment. And let's click accept, and let's start testing and making sure this is actually working here. So force total count, that appears to be working. Max points, let's dial that down to something like 100. Okay, good, so that's working. Global seed is working. Relax iterations is working. Great. Now if I turn off force total count and I go to density scale, that appears to be working. And then I'm pretty sure that that's working, at least turning on and off. And again, we're erroring because we don't have anything in there called density. We're outputting these attributes here, so let me just make sure that we are in fact getting attributes coming out. We are not. So let's see what's going on there. Because we did not bring these two toggles, so let's make sure that we get those as well. I'm going back to our type properties. And I'm just pressing Option and middle clicking. Again, I'm going to drag this in front and radius in front of radius. I'm going to select join to the next parameter. I'm going to turn off the label. And then as well, I'm going to copy that, go into our output density, and we will disable that. And that is equal to 0. Copying, disable, and just going to choose accept. So now those are on. And then we get p-scale and density as attributes. So that's great. Let's save our node type. We'll save our file. And then we'll continue. So we're inside our asset now. And what I want to do is, instead of duplicating our scatter SOP here and having duplicate parameters up at the top, what we'll do is we'll add a switch here to switch the incoming geometry. So we will still say that if we are using scatter on surface, we'll go with that as our input. However, if we are doing the volumetric method, we will change what the input coming in is, and then we will just wire that right to there. So I'm going to just delete that. And now for this switch, I'm just going to copy what we did here. So I'm just copying that. And I'm just going to paste that right here. And let's check if that actually works now. So now if I choose volume and I go to density scale, I should see that that's now working correctly. Let me go back to surface mode here. Volume, surface, volume. Let's go to force total count and check if that's working. Okay, great. So that is working. So I'm going to save our node type here. And let's take a look at our volume method here. Let's go into our SOP and let's take a look at our points from volume here. So there's a lot of stuff that we are going to need if we want to do points by volume. So we may want to actually put this in its own tab here as well, so that we can easily kind of deal with this if we have to. So why don't we go into our type properties. And I'm just going to grab a folder here and we'll put it right under our volume method. I'm just going to grab all these guys, put that in here, and we will call this one scatter SOP type. Or scatter SOP options. Sounds better to me. And then I'm going to grab another folder here and I'm going to put that in the root. And we'll call this points from volume options. Okay, and then we will choose a tab hide to turn these on and off so that it becomes more clear for the user here. So we want to hide this when volume method bracket is not equal to 2. So 0, 1, 2. Remember we had 3 toggles here, I believe. Let me check. Hold on. Let's check. We want volume method. Oh, sorry, 1. There we go. And as well, let's make an OR statement. So that's these 2 vertical line. Not exactly sure what the name of that is, but we want to make sure scatter type is equal to 0 as well. So when either of these conditions are true, we're going to hide this tab. I'm just going to go to our scatter SOP options here as well. And let's make sure that's right. I'm just going to copy this and we will go into tab hide here. Or scatter type is equal to and actually keep that here. And I believe instead of an or statement, we want an and statement. Let's satisfy both of those conditions. Let's click apply and see if that's the right thing. Oh, something is not right here. Let's see which one we screwed up. Oh, that one should be fine. So I think what they want us to do is close that bracket and then do something like that. Let's see. Nope. Not between permanent value. Let's see. Let's try just removing the statement for a second and see if that works. Volume grid, volume scatter. Okay, that'll work, I think. Okay, so let's go now into our volume grid options here, and we'll go inside. And now from our points from volume here, again, I'm just going to option and we'll keep auto detect on, construction method, sparse volume, keep all that here. So let's just grab our point configuration. So I'm pressing option and middle clicking. Point separation, we'll keep ISO value at 0. Just grab the jitter seed, jitter scale. Usually we don't need that. We can add the scale attribute and the particle scale. And this stuff I'm not going to choose because usually if you're scattering using a points from volume, you're really not interested in relaxing. The stuff you either want a perfect grid or you want to start with a perfect grid and then randomize it from there. So we'll just keep with those. Let me click apply and let's take a quick look at what we need here. So we have add scale that needs to join the next parameter. And then we also need to copy this and go to our particle radius scale. And that actually looks like that's already set up correctly. So let's click apply. Check our thing here. And then let's go back to add scale. Let's disable that label. Click apply. All right, so that's working. Point separation, grid. All right, I'm going to click accept. And let's just test this is actually working. So we can go into tetrahedra or grid. We can up and down the particle separation here. Jitter is working. And then this should, I believe, give us, let's make sure here, do we get anything? We do get p-scale from that. And then we turn that off, no p-scale, so that appears to be working. So I'm going to go back into our volume scatter. We're going to save our node type. We're going to save our file. And then we will take a look at enabling and disabling this stick to the surface option here, or basically recalculating with the surface here. So that's an option that you may want on or off. So we'll be back in just a second here. Okay, now let's put in a control here to decide whether we want to enable deformation rest position in here. So we're just going to put down a switch. And what we can do is just put a null first. And I'm going to call this, actually, we don't even need the null. We can just go straight in with the input geometry here. And then what we'll want to do is decide whether this thing is being enabled or not. So put this into our second input here, and then everything that's coming out of this, we're just going to rewire. So I'm just going to grab that wire, just pop it in there, grab this wire, pop it in there, grab this wire, pop it in, and grab that, and we'll pop it in. And we'll call this switch rest position. And so for now, we will just default that to 1. Go back to our multi-scatter here, go to type properties, that's all the way down at the bottom. And let's, here I'm just going to grab a toggle. I'll just put it right here in our main controls here. And why don't we just call this stick to deforming. Stick to deforming, and then maybe in parentheses requires rest. Oops. I'm going to click accept. And there it is here. So I'm just going to copy this parameter, dive inside. We will paste the relative reference. I'm going to label this here as well, switch scatter type. Just making sure that I can actually understand everything that's happening here. Go back up, and now let's see what happens here. So if I turn that off, now we can see it's being recomputed. Let me put that on surface mode here. I'm going to have to dial our number down quite a bit to see if it's popping around here. Yep, okay, and that is popping around. Now if I turn that on, that's working as well as it needs to. Okay, there we go. So we will keep that on by default. There's a couple other things you could do to optimize this. I'm not going to do it here, but if you are so inclined, you can go ahead. So right now this is disabling this chain here. Well, currently it's enabled, but it would either disable or enable that chain. And the other thing that you'd want to consider for efficiency's sake would be if you aren't using that deforming system here to kind of deal with this as a separate, separate way. So you'd kind of choose which input is going in here differently, and then you wouldn't need this attribute interpolate. I think that would work for most of it here. Would essentially just making sure that you're disabling this and then changing exactly how you are bringing stuff in here. But anyway, that's just a further optimization, but I think, that's probably enough time spent doing this here. So I think for the most part, we've got all the scattering parameters here set up. And now we'll start to look at how we deal with objects and attributes assigned to these points in order to copy some pieces of geometry all over this. So we are going to save our node type. We're going to save our file, and then we'll continue.